Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have you along. Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to Red Ice Creations Radio. New and regular listeners, welcome. Good to have you along. My name is Henrik Palmgren. We are coming to you from the west coast of Sweden in Scandinavia. We are here on Thursdays and Sundays doing radio on important and interesting subjects for your consideration. We highlight everything from conspiracy, secret societies, history, religion, to new and emerging technologies, mass control, geopolitics, the occult, space news, spiritual topics, environmental issues, and much more. Our website is redicecreations.com. That's REDICE creations.com. Take a look around, follow along in our daily updated news, and don't miss out on all the material that we have for you in our member section: video, short films, radio with extended interviews with many of our guests, and much more of that in the pipeline. All information is available on our website. And today we have author Eric John Phelps back with us on the program. He is, of course, behind the book Vatican Assassins. We had Eric with us back in September last year talking about his book, which now it's in its third edition, I think. It's available as a PDF, and it's got an incredible 1,836 pages. His website is vaticanassassins.org. Go there, take a look at all the articles he's got up there for you, and do get a copy of the book if you're interested in the research that we'll be discussing here today. We're going to begin to talk about the Vatican connection and the potential creation of Islam, and move on from there forward in history to discuss some other connections to the consequent terror fraud, as it were, related to Al-Qaeda and what we've seen after the 9/11 attacks, and look at some of the establishment connections to all of this. So with that, welcome back to the program, Eric. Nice to have you on the program again.
Pleasure to be with you, Henrik, and your listeners today.
Thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. I want to begin here right at the top, so to speak, and go back about, 14 to 1500 years. And the official story goes that the Prophet Muhammad was receiving revelations from God, and that this was memorized and recorded by some of his companions. And this became as what we know as the Quran today. And Muhammad lived between, I think, 570 and 632 BC. To start right with that, Eric, do you think that story is a fraud, or is there some truth to that, you think?
As far as as far as Islam being started by Muhammad, is that what the question is?
That's right.
Well, according to Alberto Rivera, and I believe his testimony in the Czech publication, The Prophet, I believe, and it can be substantiated from a few other sources, that Islam is a creation of the Vatican through the Augustinian monks of North Africa, and that they were the ones who were responsible ultimately for the rise of Muhammad, and that they tutored him also. And the purpose for Islam being created by the Vatican was, number one, to block the true gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ to the Arab people. Number two, to use the Arab peoples for the killing of the racial Jews throughout Arabia and North Africa, and also to use the Arab peoples for the killing off of true Bible-believing Arabs and racial Jews, and even some black Africans in northern Africa, going all the way across North Africa to invade Spain finally, and to kill off the Arians who denied the Roman Catholic, the papal Trinity, as opposed to the biblical Bible-based Trinity. And so that's why the Muslims occupied Spain and for nearly some 700 years. So the purpose for the Vatican in creating Islam was to use Islam as a sword of the church to kill off the enemies of the papacy, while at the same time keeping an arm's distance, the papacy keeping an arm's distance from this killing, so it looks like the Vatican is innocent, and it's that evil, wicked Islam that's doing it apart from any papal control.
Right.
So I get into this in a CD that I have just finished. I use it at the conspiracy conference in June of this year, and I wasn't happy with it. I had put in probably 900 hours in it, and it wasn't a good contrast for a overhead for a PowerPoint. So I added 100 more slides. I completely redid the contrasting. I enlarged the letters, and I finished it about 3 weeks ago. So I have 1,000 hours over in the production of this CD PowerPoint that I get into these points that your listeners can purchase, and then they too can begin to present this to their friends. And it's very user-friendly. The person doesn't have to know anything about it. It's all self-explained with lots of good pictures and illustrations, 412 slides or PowerPoints. But
and that is available at your website, I guess, then?
It's available on my website. Just contact me through the website, and it's 20 Federal Reserve notes plus shipping. And I don't know what the shipping would be in Sweden, but I'll just have to figure that out when I get an order.
Beautiful, yeah.
It's affordable, and I regard it as a tremendous sequel to my book. And by the way, I do have Vatican Assassins now in book form. It's 13 pounds. It's 9.5 by 12. It's 5 inches thick. And so it would cost something to ship, but it is now in one book form, so if anybody would want to have the book, they can also order that too. It's 325 Federal Reserve notes plus shipping, so that's available. And then I have my Jesuit Watch newsletter that comes out bi-monthly, 6 issues per year. This is now available too, and that's 40 Federal Reserve notes a year. And please forgive me by using the term Federal Reserve notes. They're not dollars.
I understand.
They're Federal Reserve notes, so in being a Bible believer, I should be honest about what the notes we're using. So that's, in fact, what they are.
Well, it's good to clarify that. That gives a kind of a mental reminder of what it is you guys are dealing with over there, so to speak. So that's a good one.
Right. The Pope's Federal Reserve Bank with the Pope's Federal Reserve notes, and the Federal Reserve notes are nothing more than indulgences, evidences of debt, so we can go out and sin and incur debt to be more indebted to the Federal Reserve Bank controlled by the Knights of Malta.
There you go. Okay, let's get back on track here, Eric, and talk a little bit more about you mentioned the Augustinian monks. Do you think that they are potentially then responsible for pinning down the Quran, or do you think that this was actually written by an historical character like Muhammad?
No, Muhammad was an illiterate. He couldn't write. So it was done by others, just like Mein Kampf was written by others. Hitler was not an author. He never wrote a book. He didn't have the capacity. So it's the same way with Muhammad. So it was written for Muhammad, and I'm convinced that priests of North Africa had a hand in writing it. And you can find many of the tenets in the Quran to be the exact same tenets of the Roman Catholic canon law. For example, one of the tenets of Islam is that those who do not believe in the false prophet Muhammad are what are called infidels. Well, in Romanism, in the teaching of the canon law, if you're not a member of the Roman Catholic Church, if you don't believe in the false prophet, the Pope, because the Pope considers himself a prophet, if you don't believe in the Pope, you're a heretic. So what is deemed an infidel in Islam and worthy of death is deemed a heretic in canon law and worthy of death.
Right.
Here's another. With me there?
Yeah.
So here's another parallel. In Islam, they have what are called jihads.
Right.
And a jihad is a holy war. In Romanism, you have what are called crusades. They are holy wars. Same exact thing. In Islam, you have a man of blood founding Islam, Muhammad. Very immoral man, had many wives, illiterate. He is. There's a book available by Chick Publications, who talks of a former Muslim who truly converted to Christ and born again. He tells the true story about Muhammad, and you can get that from Chick Publications. But in Islam, you have Muhammad founding Islam, at least openly, and in Romanism, you have Constantine founding Roman Catholicism.
Right.
Remember, Roman Catholicism doesn't exist one day prior to 325 AD.